I've had multiple guests, but they've always been in one location when I've had the guests on. And this time we got two guests, two separate parts of the country. And usually, if you go to any of the seminars or anything like that, you see these two guys together. So here we go. I got both of them putting the pressure on me today. Hey everybody, welcome back. This is Blacktop Banter, and this is episode 43. So we're moving along, and the winter has been good. I've had nothing to do but make podcasts, so it's working out pretty good. The weather's still freezing, and it looks like it's going to break maybe here in 3 months. So things are really positive. It's looking great, guys. So we got a first time kind of thing here on the podcast today. I've had multiple guests, but they've always been in one location when I've had the guests on. And this time we got two guests, two separate parts of the country. And usually, if you go to any of the seminars or anything like that, you see these two guys together. So here we go. I got both of them putting the pressure on me today. And we got Craig Granroth and we have Steve Brahney. Both of these guys, solid guys. I'm going to let Craig introduce himself first. You just tell us where you're at, the business, and everything. Pretend like I don't know you, Steve, and you're introducing yourself to me, and really build yourself up.
Yeah, not a problem. Hey, thanks a lot, Marvin. As you know, my name's Craig Granroth. I'm with ACS Asphalt Concrete Solutions. We're out of the Minneapolis-St. Paul area in Minnesota. So the weather you have there in Wisconsin is the same that we have here. Might even be a little bit colder here. Uh, you know, uh, I started the company back in 2006 after working with a couple other companies.
Yep.
A few years ago, we had the pleasure of buying out my first employer that I ever had, who works for me now at the age of 69 years old, because he enjoys sales so much. Basically, we're a full service asphalt maintenance company.
Mm-hmm.
We do asphalt everywhere from patching to full depth to new construction, mill and overlays. We do crack sealing, seal coating. We do sub out our striping, and we do a ton of concrete work, which we sub out the majority of that.
Cool.
But yeah, great market. Been a lot of fun. Seen a lot of different things since 1993.
Yeah, I know. Especially, we've seen different things together. We've been in Nashville together a few times and seen different things. So it's very nice to have you here, man. Good to see you as always. I'm going to switch over to Steve. Steve, you can give us the same rundown, man. Where you're at over there. Tell us about Fix-Asphalt and everything.
Just had to take some notes down from Craig there, so I got everything all jotted down now. So, my name's Steve Brahney. So I own Brahney Paving. This is our going on our 20th year as of April of this year, 20th year in business. I've been around the industry. I just turned 46, but I've been around the industry since I was 12 years old. So I decided I would, straight parking lots and seal driveways instead of mowing lawns like everybody else did, and did it all through high school, did it through college. I left college early, took a job. I had a lot of striping experience, took a job with a very large highway striping and traffic control company. So I worked there for about a little over a year, and just decided that at that point, the only thing that was separating me and that was just the fact that I was getting a paycheck every week. So I decided that I want to go back into business for myself and do it. So that's what I've been doing since April 10th of 2001. And this, so pretty much just like Craig, we do the whole spectrum of everything. So only thing we don't do is new construction work. So we do asphalt, concrete, preventive maintenance, pretty much entire thing Craig talked about.
Yeah.
Work primarily throughout New Jersey, Southern New York, Eastern Pennsylvania, all of Delaware, and pretty much Northern Maryland.
Yeah,
So,
it's quite a market you got right there with all. That's the thing, Craig. Out there, the states are a lot smaller, so you can go to a lot of different states in one shot. Where we are, they're a little bit bigger. It's hard to get into a new one once.
yeah, it's actually, I'll tell you a funny story real quick. So for about 3 years, I could almost time it on my watch in the morning that I'd be getting a call from American Express by about 8:30. So the trucks would, they would dispatch out of South Jersey, and
Yeah.
they'd be over. You can be in Pennsylvania in 10 minutes. You can be in Delaware in 10 minutes. You can be in Maryland in 30 minutes. And usually by the fourth time, someone either tried to fill up gas, go into Lowe's, whatever it was, by 8:30, the cards would be shut off. So, I'd always be in the middle of a meeting and the messages are coming through and everything like that. And you got to call American Express. And of course, everybody you talk to there works in the United States. So by the time you're done repeating everything 6 or 7 times, they can understand you.
Yeah.
They'd say, well, there was suspicious activity. Well, what was the suspicious activity? Well, you've got 5 different cards. They were all used in 4 states in 45 minutes. I said, okay, well, grab a globe. Okay. Spin the globe around and look at where we are and see that we can get in 5 states in 45 minutes. And literally it took like 2 hours where we threatened to literally shut our account down because so we can't have this every morning. You're going to have to put something in our profile that the trucks are in 4 or 5 different states every day. Like you have to do
They're
something.
To figure something out.
Yeah.
You think they
Yeah,
would?
I could be sitting in, getting ready to go to a meeting. I'm just sitting here looking at my phone, just waiting for the phone call to come through at 8:30.
You knew by that time it was going to happen.
That's funny that that's being said, Marvin, because Steve and I, we talk quite a bit, and I'm like, oh God, I got to get through North Dakota in a day and a half, and he's like, dude, it's right next to you. You realize how big freaking North Dakota is and how boring it is?
Yeah.
Yeah, we are fortunate. We're very densely populated here. So it is great to be able to get into like 4 or 5 different states in a matter of like 45. I don't really know anywhere else in the country. I think you could do that with as densely populated as we are down here. I don't really think there's, besides maybe the 4 corners, I don't know where else you could get in 4 states in under 30 minutes.
No way. I've spent some time out in New England, and I just remember like when someone told me that it was an hour away, I was like, that ain't bad. And what to them, it was like, oh my God, we got to go an hour. And it's like, oh, that's not that bad. Like 60 miles, nothing. Dude, stop and go traffic. Nightmare. And then I understood it.
Food.
Yeah. Then I understood what the deal was. Well, Steve's, you stripe once in a while for therapy to get out still a little bit on Sunday.
I actually do it a lot of Saturdays, Sundays. I'll go out. I mean, obviously I can't do anything big by myself. But if it's of course, we like to donate a lot of stuff. So any type of nonprofits, things like that, like to bring the kids out for if it's something small, like 10, 20, 30 stalls, I'll go out and do it. Yep. But I do. I swear I actually enjoy striping. It is pretty relaxing for me.
So yeah, I mean, you get a heavy bucket, you can do it yourself. That can be the other end of your chalk line or whatever. A lot of people aren't using chalk lines anymore, but that could be your chalk line or whatever. And it is kind of one thing that you can do yourself that you're not going to get filthy. Main stuff isn't going to happen, and it's still kind of nice. So I did most of it up until last year. My crew lead, Chris, has been a great guy. All of a sudden, he'll just be like, let me see that thing, and takes over. So I need to get another one. I did get an old Graco. I don't know if we're going to get it rocking and rolling. Craig, you still get out and stripe a little bit? Yeah? No.
Me?
No.
No. I had one striping experience. We were actually striping a Lockheed Martin, and the main stripe, our main guy didn't show up that day.
Yep. And
it was an old Kelly Cresswell.
Oh, yeah.
So this is a while ago. And so I'm like, well, we got to get this done. So I'm striping, going away, just doing, double parking stalls. The gun wouldn't shut off on me a couple of times. So instead of stopping and making a puddle, I just kept going.
Yep.
So I had a real long line in that parking lot.
That's all right. There's a guy.
I didn't want to tell you what I paid to have seen that video if there was YouTube back then.
Yeah, I would have had you send it to me, and it would have went viral.
With him pushing, because the Kelly's about 300 pounds full of paint. I mean, I used to push one when I could barely get over the handlebars. To watch him pushing that thing and keep looking behind him to see the paint, that I would have paid probably a grand in cash for that.
It's funny. I can still remember how you had to push it too, because it automatically wanted to go to the right.
Yeah.
So with the one hand, you pushed here, and the other, or the vice versa, to try to keep a straight line going.
Yeah, you had to put more pressure on one side than the other.
Yeah. Otherwise, you were getting a little bit of a bow in it.
I gotcha. Well, I'm guessing when it stayed on, they all had quite a bit of bows going into them when that gun stayed on. There's a guy, Adam Golston. He's going to be on the podcast sometime. Does AG Sports Services there in Indiana. He was telling me he had a Kelly there. He's like, just move it, just feel it, because I hadn't felt one before. And he's like, it's a hog. He's like, it's not something you just move around like your little Titan or your 3400 or something. He's like, that ain't how it is. And he was telling me there's a guy that still stripes in Indy that has 12 of them. And that's all he uses still is the Kellys. And he's like, the guy won't switch. If he ever did switch, he'd hate himself because he's still rocking those 12 Kellys.
Good guys in Jersey that still use them. We have a couple guys that I still have mine in the warehouse. I'm kind of I'm a little bit superstitious about that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
So I'm never getting rid of it. So I have it there, but it's and it is funny. Like, I had a dude come in. I keep at our location down in Delaware.
Yeah.
So I had a guy come in a couple of months ago. He was telling me, he comes in for an interview. He's like, God, I've been striping my whole life. Well, what's your whole life? Oh, he looked like he was in his 50s. Oh, easily 35, 40 years, no problem. So he walks out in the warehouse and he sees it. And I see his head, like he's just following it as he's walking. And he's just staring at it. And he goes, what is that right there? I said, dude, you're joking, right? He goes, no, what is that? I said, it's a Kelly Cresswell. He goes, you paint with that? I said, hold on a second, because people from the West Coast didn't have Kellys. Most of those guys, that's always been an airless market over there. Yep. I said, you've striped on the East Coast for the last 35 years? He goes, yeah. I said, all right. And you have no clue what a Kelly Cresswell? No clue. Just sitting there staring. Needless to say, I didn't hire him. So, right. Completely full of crap. So I think the 35 years was probably a little closer to maybe, 35 months he'd been striping for. But no way not knowing what that machine was.
That could have been. That definitely could have been. Let's talk about what you guys teach together, because I sat in on a seminar last year with you guys that I really enjoyed. So let's talk about your topic.
You were in our class last year?
I was in for a moment, just enough to get some pictures and kind of hang on a little bit. I
snagged. That was the dude that put in the bad review.
Yeah, I didn't even stay long enough for a review. I was only in there a moment, just enough to get the book, take a picture, and bail.
We got your number, Marvin.
All right, fair enough. I'm making up for it now.
So we taught an intro to crack sealing class.
Mm-hmm.
So it was kind of fun. I sat on the pavement advisory board for NPE, and we were just kind of going through some classes and stuff, and they were looking for something new. And I guess one of the crack sealing classes that got taught didn't get a real good review on it. So Russ was just like, hey, why don't you teach this class? I said, all right, I'll give it a whirl as long as I can bring Craig in with me.
Yeah.
So,
Cool. Well, the class before, the one that you guys replaced, I sat in that class before. And there was a lot of eyebrows raised, like, okay.
Yeah.
And me, I'm still a young pup, but I was really young pup. That was my second MPE. In the first MPE, I couldn't afford to even sit in but one class. The second time around when I spoke, Russ was like, you got free range, man. We want you to be there, take pictures, cover whatever you want to. So I took in all the knowledge I could. And I was sitting in the class with a couple of guys I knew from the groups and stuff. And I'm like, sweet, this is how I already do it. And the one guy next to me was like, dude, it's completely wrong. This is completely wrong. So I was like, man, I'm a pro already. Like, dude,
what do you mean you're not supposed to pull the plastic off the crack filling boxes? Right. What are you talking about?
Yeah. When he was like, when the guy said, well, get your guys some V squeegees. And I was like, we're loaded with V squeegees. We got tons of them.
I got one under my bed.
I'm ready to rock and roll. There's one in the truck right now. Yeah. So it was just it's an interesting thing. And, it's interesting to get a take on different perspectives on a lot of these classes. And now I've been around long enough that different people are teaching about the same subject, and it's completely different. You get a good mix up, but there's some people that just knock it out of the park. And those are the ones that I want to refresh to and go back to. And, it's interesting the way that things have changed hands a little bit, and we're getting some new looks and stuff. But the old adage of contractors teaching contractors is the absolute gold for me, because there's classes where they're not contractors, and at MPE as well, where I go in there and there's some good knowledge, but it's not applicable. You know, it just doesn't directly apply to me or our business or anything else. In your guys' class, we got 2 contractors, been in the game a long time, you know, and it's like, all right, these are the kind of people we want to learn from. So what
We
did
got
you?
all good reviews. We got, I think it was all 5. We got all 5-star. We had one person that had said to us that he gave us like a 4 and said that he wished there was more discussion about residential crack sealing. And, you know, in an instance like that, I wish somebody would have just that person would have just reached out to me after class instead of giving that bad review, because I could have taught you that in about 15 minutes. Obviously, Craig and I had to fill 90 minutes of time.
Yeah.
The residential is so easy, and it's something I probably could have helped them either with videos off our own jobs or something. So that is the only thing.
I do remember the one review saying, "Boy, I wish you would have gotten to more advanced crack sealing."
How
The
more
class was
advanced can you
intro
get?
to crack sealing.
Yeah.
Maybe he meant paving. You know, it's like maybe he meant repaving, I guess. You can
So
only
it was kind of fun even putting together the deal on it,
yeah.
because we had an outline of things, and I'm like going, Steve, I got to ask you a really dumb question. I go, what's an MA10?
Well, that I knew what they were, and the guy that taught your guys' class beforehand said those were the cat's pajamas. I was like, whew, I got an old one. I'm gonna be in business doing it the right way.
I've never used one.
You need those. He said you need those for the roads and airports. Make sure you get an MA10. I said, okay.
Yeah, no, that's
It's like, nah, I don't think so. I'm
no,
pretty sure
Marvin, don't be taking stock pics from that guy either, because I don't know.
I'm pretty sure those big ones I seen on the Expo floor, those are the ones I need. And
Yeah.
it just kind of seemed like it. So
I mean, you can use it. Hey, listen, bro, when I started business, I mean, I've pushed out 1,800 feet, 2,000 feet with one before. It's a rough, long day, man. But I mean, now, I mean, if it's more than 300-400 feet, we
I
send a
can't do it.
trailer.
I can't use them. My guys are better than I am, and they've never touched one before. I'm just not good with it. I don't know if there's a feel for it, and sometimes you are good and aren't. With striping, I wasn't decent with it right away. I consider myself fairly good now. Maybe I just need to use it more, but I'm so slow and it feels so inefficient compared to what I normally do that it's like, God, I'm done with this thing. I understand if it's a one-man band and you're doing a parking lot, it would help quite a bit if you don't have a big unit, but I'm not really big on the MA10s. I try, but I'm not that great. But let's talk about, so you were talking about the guy wanting to reach out to you guys, you know, and just be like, hey, how do I do residential ceiling or whatever? Let's talk about the community, because I know that I field a lot of questions, and like I said, I'm a dummy. I don't know or have near much as experience in some of these applications that you guys do. I imagine you guys get hit quite a bit with DMs and messages and everything else under the sun, correct?
Yeah, I get people message me all the time. So I try to help anybody I can, as long as it looks like it's somebody um, that's in it for the right, the right reasons. I mean, I'll be honest. I mean, somebody sends me, I get tons of DMs through Facebook. I'll look at their profile. I mean, if the profile doesn't fit the criteria, what I think is somebody that's looking to improve the industry,
Yep.
that's advancing it. I listen, my time's worth, I know what it's worth per hour, and it's a lot of money.
Those are the guys you're sending to me. Those are the guys you're sending my profile to. I knew it. Hey, this guy,
I don't mind giving them my time. I just want to make sure if I'm devoting that much money of my time that they're gonna they're gonna use the knowledge I'm giving them. They're gonna help it, and it's somebody that's that's out there trying to improve the industry, not just try to make a quick buck or do something underhanded.
Right. Yeah, that's kind of the thing, is you you get a lot of people that are like, "Hey, I'm looking to start this." And it's like, "Dude, I don't have time to tell you how to start right now." One good thing I've done is make a couple of intro videos, and I'll just send the damn link. I'm like, "Here, man, watch this video. This is going to do you a lot better." It's like me being in 2 places at once. Here you go. When you're done watching that one, if you still have questions, tell me and I'll send you the next video, until you get to where I can send you to somebody else or someplace else. But that's the online community. It just is. It's weird. And once you start dipping into it and putting yourself out there, of course, people think, well, man, I can interact with this person quite a bit. And some of them take liberties to send or lure you into things that just they take completely out of context, and you end up in a position where you're like, that's not even remotely the conversation or the scenario that I was in or even want to get into at all. And it's one of those things where you just got to be careful. And it's like, well, you're always going to be susceptible to it, especially us as, I luckily I've taught one class now. So I, as instructors and people putting ourselves out there to trying to say, hey, we're knowledgeable, people always use that as a little hook saying, oh, well, you said you would help, or
Yeah.
whatever. And it's like, man, come on. And then you don't even know who's really who
Yeah.
nowadays.
That's the hardest part. Yeah.
That's the hardest part. I had somebody that was just hounding in the groups and running me down for no real reason. And I ended up having to confront this profile that really wasn't even somebody that existed.
Yep.
And it's just it's a pain, and people will do that to bait you and lure you into things, and it just leaves you feeling like shit, really, because you're like, man, I got lured in here. Somebody was just trying to get me and razz me, and fell for it, because we're in a position to where if not, somebody might say something and say, hey, well, he said he would help, or he's this person and did this and did that. And sometimes they just want to do that. They just want to show you in a negative light, either to make themselves feel better, or try to ruin some credibility. And it's like,
Yeah.
man, we're a small industry. We're a micro industry. We're just people trying to help each other out. There's no real trying to ruin credibility or do anything. We're going to all go back to work at our places. You're not taking our livelihood from us. For what you get paid to speak, you're not going to survive. You're not going to Cabo on your speaking gig at, MPE or wherever you speak, no matter where it is.
Yeah.
So for people to try to mess with that, it's beyond my mind that people.
Yeah, we've got a lot of trolls in 14 this business, and a lot of bad actors, and we got a couple wolves that are disguised in sheep's clothing as well. A lot of false prophets. So you
Yep.
gotta be real careful who you're taking advice from, because like you said your point before, where you want people teaching the classes that actually have real life experience, because
Absolutely.
that's one of the things we dealt with on the sitting on the board, is going through all the class prerequisites. And it's like, you look through some of them, these people, they've got here's me, okay, with 25 plus years experience. They asked me to send in a synopsis on myself. I hate talking about myself. I'm like I'm like three sentences. This is me. This
Yep.
is what I do. And here's my class. You have people in there that have like 3 pages talking about themselves.
I know.
It's like, and you have no industry experience. I mean, so what does that say?
Mine was probably a paragraph. And it's like, and all it said was, I was terrible. I ran Facebook ads, and now I'm middle class. Send it.
Craig's was unbelievable. I'm like, nope, scratch the stuff out. Just going through, redacting stuff, redlining. I'm like, nope. Had to take it all out.
Well, and you guys are right. It's tough. I'm a part of a lot of the same groups you guys are a part of.
Yep.
And I look at some of these conversations, and I'm not as active as you two guys are on there. Right. And I don't know how many times I roll my eyes looking at things going, who taught you this?
Yeah.
Where did you see this was the right practice? The manufacturers aren't telling you of any of the crack sealing products that do this. The seal coating is the one that probably drives me up the wall.
Yeah,
because that's where I feel like I'm
it's everything that's wrong with the seal coating problems are very simple fixes. It's just getting the knowledge of them understanding that there's more value in doing it the correct way, which is a very simple change, and you're in good shape. For some reason, the mentality in the seal coating world, when you're just starting out, or you're unknowledgeable about the way it is, they think saving a few bucks here or there is really going to help them in the long run. When really, everybody wants to be able to go back to the job that you did. Here we're a couple, 2 or 3 years out most of the time, seal coating, residential, even commercial. You want to be able to walk in and walk back and be like, yeah, everything went great. We want you back. And it's very simple just to do it the right way. And you're going to double your money again. That's 2 or 3 years down the line, whenever the heck it is. Just doesn't make sense. The foresight, I think, of seal coating is very short-sighted versus thinking long-term. They're
Well,
thinking
that's almost like anything, even when it comes to patching. Uh, Everybody has their viewpoint on things. Um, I get a lot of guys, I go out and I train them, and it might be an alligated area in a parking lot. Like, oh, we got to rip this out and replace it. I go,
yeah,
this parking lot's 30 years old. The guy doesn't have money. We can mill it down 2 inches and do it. It's just old asphalt. It's tired.
yeah,
It's not because we have bad subsoils or anything like that.
no,
So it's an educational thing. I don't care if you're going out and just doing aprons or potholes or if you're paving roads. We have to have an integrity as a whole in the whole industry.
I think and you help out a lot of people locally there too, Craig. I know you do. I know people have sought after advice for you up there where you're at in the cities. So, it just has to be a thing where I don't know if it's just the atmosphere, the knowledge, the community. I think as a community in the last 4 or 5 years, especially like I said, Steve and I are big time into the social media game and helping educate that way. And sometimes it's just by association. They see the way it's done right. They know who's killing it. And they're like, okay, we need to step it up and we need to do it the correct way because these guys are killing it. But also on the small scale or locally, like you are, Steve, up there at the cities, people see, ACS killing it. And they're like, God, those guys know how I need to do this. And I think that's the main thing is mentorship, I guess, or just teaching, not so much mentorship because that's a whole different caliber of educating a human. But just knowledge and making sure the knowledge is put out there the right way, correctly, and that it's going through and to the right people. So um, just one of those things, I guess. You time is telling and it seems like it's changing over time, but
I mean,
that's the
we
way.
get like, so we don't do residential driveways, paving and or seal coating.
Yep.
So there's a few guys I refer work to. Um,
Yep.
but I'm not going to refer it to Joe Bag of Donuts seal coating,
Right.
not knowing what they do. There are certain things that I want to make sure it's a reputable company. I do like to have people that have tanks that have agitators in there that are performing to the specs of the manufacturers.
Yes.
And your major manufacturers, they're all very similar. Get the sealer on the ground, use the recipe they give you. Period. Steve, is it any harder than that? Marvin, is
Really
it
not.
harder than that?
Yeah,
Not any
no,
harder than that.
no.
No.
People try to complicate it, but it's really not.
Yeah, and one thing is, if you're doing trial and error, if you can tell something is wrong, especially by the next year where we live, you could tell if something went wrong or something was not performing the way that it was promised to or whatever. It's really easy to make a couple little adjustments or figure out what those adjustments were to do it the right way. So, it's one of those things, I guess, as we go. Um, as we're moving on and as the industry's moving on, uh, like Steve was saying, you help out your community quite a bit, especially right where you're at. We do the same thing here. I know Craig does there. It's just kind of that's the mentality of the people that started something, made it, the place around you, your community helped you make it. So you give back. That's no different than the community online. We didn't make it there, but we made ourselves got there to where this is part of our industry now. So we just want to give back. And it's like, okay, this industry's been good, supports my family. I know it supports your guys' family. It's like that's the only thing we want to do is give back. There's no other motives, really, truthfully, besides us getting to hang out and maybe go through this freaking roller coaster ride together. But I think that that's kind of the big takeaway is that you guys are really good friends. I know you guys talk fairly often. And like I said, I see you hang out quite a bit. And even when we get to hang out back and forth, I know I hung out with Steve most of the time last time. I didn't get to hang out with Craig but one night. He's a very busy guy. And that was at MPE. And it's just, that's what you want to do. I want to see you guys have success and continued success. And also you get invested beyond just wanting to see somebody's success. You guys are my friends. It's like, okay, this is one great byproduct of us hanging out and having a community and having things together. In that same sense, we really know each other better than people that are outside of the industry that aren't contractors in a sense, so I think the words that you guys speak to me hold a lot more weight than words of outside, people that are outside the industry in one way or another. As far as contractors go, I trust what you guys are telling me and saying, and I would trust the criticism both. I think that our industry, our community needs to understand that everyone's in here for each other for good. And if you are getting any criticism, it's probably the truth more than likely, unless like we were talking about, there's people trying to cut your legs out from under you just for spite. But I think as we keep going, that needs to be the same flavor going forward here, because I've seen the industry change in the last 5 years. I've seen the whole perspective of our industry change, especially here locally where I live, but also nationwide too. So I'm just super excited that there's groups of guys like us and our community together that's pushing all in that same direction. And hopefully here coming up, we were able to keep doing that. I know this year with MPE being COVID and everything else under the sun, and then no other real seminars or anything going on, we weren't able to do that. But I'm hoping that that's the way it is going forward for all.
I was super excited for MPE this year. I ain't gonna lie to you.
Yeah.
And it's great because I get to see Marvin. I mean, I don't get to see Steve all the time.
Yep.
And with this whole COVID thing, it's kind of ironic, Steve. Our families have become good friends. My wife and his wife have never met, but they talk to each other on the phone.
It's crazy.
All of a sudden, I got a pair of sandals today, and I'm like, how did you know this name brand? All I said is, Chrissy said these are the sandals to get for orthotics. And they're here. I'm like, did you call Chrissy? She goes, well, of course I did. They've never met.
Yeah. They must have thought this snow was white sand, is all I can think.
Well, I'm headed out of here tomorrow, so I can't do this anymore.
I heard that. I'm ready to take a break myself as well.
But it's a community. It's the relationships.
Yep.
Over the years that I've had. I've had relationships that have grown very close that had to get undone.
Yeah.
I have 2 partners. Thank God for them. They push to buy equipment. I'm more conservative.
Mm-hmm.
But guess what? I put my boots on every day and say, okay, we got that equipment. I got to go sell more because here's my nut we have to get.
Yeah. And that's what our community does. Same thing as your partners do. When my friends are farther along than I do, I strive for that. I want to get there. When I was talking to Chris the other day, Chris Tammany, that's one of the most humble, real guys that I've met in the industry and actually got a chance to sit down and talk to and pick his brain. We were done with the podcast in 30 minutes. We spent 30 minutes off camera, me asking everything like a kid in a candy store, everything that I could think that he has taken in over his time at MPE. And it made me want to push. And not only that, I believe that I could get to that level because I was able to talk to Chris that kind of way. And I think that that's the kind of people that need to stay in the, I don't want to say spotlight, but at the forefront. And until it's time for that to pass, the old guard is changing a little bit. Just make sure it's the right people. And that's the main thing. Don't burn a bridge or cut a string on people that aren't going to negatively impact the community. It just doesn't make sense to me. So I'm all about all of us staying together and tight and talking and having you guys back anytime. And I know the podcast is running longer than what I said it was going to. So I want to get to some fun questions because I'm trying to do that this year. And I know both of you guys are really uptight and don't like to talk to anybody and don't like to have fun or anything. So I'm going to try to peel the layers off of here. I'm going to go with Craig first. You ready?
Yep, go ahead.
All right. What is the favorite thing you bought last year?
The favorite thing I bought.
What's your favorite thing you bought last year?
Oh, geez.
And it can't be my drinks at dinner. That does not count.
How about those wave runners I told you to get for the lake?
Yep. I bought
Not
2.
trying to put words in your mouth or anything, but was that a good investment or was that a good investment?
Oh, it was fun.
Yeah.
My son loved it. So, yeah, I would probably say yeah, that was, that was a fun thing that I bought last year. It was,
Those
couldn't go anywhere, so why not stay at the lake home most of the time and enjoy it?
it's probably cheaper, honestly, in the long
Oh
run,
yeah.
than going anywhere. What lake is it?
Rush Lake up in Rush City, Minnesota.
Very cool. I think I need to get back up there. I haven't been to the cities in at least a year, so I need to get up there. But man, it's 2 hours away, Steve. So it's a
Dude,
lot.
I do that. That's like my morning. If I got to go Delaware and back, I'm like, people are gonna be like, well, I got to go to Wilmington, Delaware. Then I'm going up to New York City, and they're like, okay, I'm like, yeah, 3 hours, 3.5 hours. I'll be up there. It's no big deal.
No big problem, man.
Yep.
Cool. All right, Steve, you're next. And I'm really curious. I picked this one out for you because
Uh-oh, this is gonna be bad.
it is. No, it's not gonna be bad at all. What's your favorite gadget?
My favorite gadget?
Yep.
Oh, maybe we should call Chrissy.
Yeah. I
Easy.
don't. That's a good question, man. I mean, I've got everything. I mean, obviously, technology wise for work. I mean, I've got everything.
What
So,
about new? What about new? Something that you bought. That's what I mean, really, the gadget for work. What is something that you implemented or you bought where you're like, dang,
oh, so I'll tell you. Okay, she was saying for work.
yeah,
Oh, it's a great story.
cool.
So I go out and buy a hurricane blower in like March or April last year.
Yep.
So I put it's in the yard, it's in there, and they're expensive, man. It was like I think 10 or 11 G's, and
Yep.
it's sitting in the warehouse. And I'm not down in South Jersey and Delaware. I'm only down there like once a week. I go down there, and every time I go down there, this friggin' blower is sitting in the not moving, just sitting there. I'm looking at the hours, no hours, anything like that. So I'm like, you know what? That's fine. I go down there on a Sunday one day, take all the walk behind blowers and lock them into one of the tool trailers where nobody could get into. It's kind of
Yep.
a combination lock. So they sent me a message in the morning like, oh, boss, all the blowers are missing out of the truck. I said, no. They're not missing. They've been strategically placed somewhere. So you're going to need to take that ride-on blower if you want a silk coat today. So like, I'm sitting there watching on the security camera, and they're like, like loitering, like nobody wants to touch it. So finally they take it out. I go to the job they're working on in the middle of the day, dude, and now they're like fighting to use it. So now you get to the job and they run to use the ride-on blower.
Sure.
So now the walk behinds, nobody uses them. So that was probably one of the best things I think I bought last year.
How much of a game changer was it going from the push blowers to the ride-on blower? Did you get a Hurricane?
I got the Billy Goat one. Did Billy
Billy
Goat
Goat.
buy Hurricane?
Yep.
Yeah, so it looks like a Hurricane, but it's a Billy Goat.
Yep.
It was I mean, huge, man. Just from labor rights. The only thing that's a little bit of a pain in the butt is you have to bring a separate trailer for it. You need an enclosed trailer to bring
Yes.
it around in. So this year, what I'm building is an actual prep trailer, an enclosed trailer that
Yep.
has all the barricades in it. It'll have the Billy Goat. It'll have an M810 for if there's only 300 feet of cracks on the job, things like that. It'll be in there. So it was a little bit of a pain in the butt because, you got to tow an extra trailer there. And then like I came back one Friday and it wasn't in the yard, the
Right.
trailer. So I'm like, where's the ride-on blower? They're like, oh, it's down in Atlantic City. I'm like, okay, like the drug capital of South Jersey. It's in Atlantic City right now. They're like, yeah, like we didn't want to have to make. I said, no. Go down and get the blower and the trailer right now. It's not staying but it's behind a gate. I'm like, and crackheads don't climb gates. I mean, go get the blower right now and bring it back to the yard.
Yeah, that's rough. The boys at Pickett's Paving, I was up there in their shop and they had one, and they're about and there's not one really close unless I was to buy one because they're just not used around here very much.
Yeah.
But I've seen they had one, and Leonard was like, "Dude, use it whenever you want to. Try it out." And I was like, "I'm taking you up on that next year. You better believe it."
I'm going to buy a second one this year because it really is good. I mean, for what's out there for efficiency.
I imagine if you buy a second one, they'll have their own trailer, and you'll
it's just because there's going to be the steel clinkers are split up. It'll be between two. So instead of going back and forth for like the larger jobs, I'll just keep it there because I mean, even at $11,000, $12,000, I know it sounds like a lot of money, but if you look at efficiency wise of it, I think it was definitely a good investment.
All right, I like it. That's a good gadget too.
Yeah,
that's a big old gadget, but hey, sometimes those are the best ones. All
right,
like
the line drivers, same way, dude. It sat in the warehouse for 5 years. I bought it.
Yep.
sat in the warehouse for 5 years, and we had to stripe a road that was like 3 miles long in our industrial park.
Yep.
So I'm like, dude, this machine's not getting hand pushed. Like, oh, we got this. I don't care. Figure out how to use it. And now, like, if they got to stripe like 3 parking stalls, they use the line driver. Like, it gets used nonstop now.
Cool. I think that's something that you just got to bite off. And before, I was more like Craig was talking, where he's more conservative, and even us being small scale, to like go ahead and get a Duramax, and then buy something even bigger, and then get the enclosed trailer for the line striper. I was like, man, nervous as shit. Now, dude, I don't care. It's like, dude, we're gonna make our money back easy. We need this for efficiency. You realize, like I said, just being by around everybody that has this equipment, efficiency is where the money's at.
It is.
Honestly,
Yeah,
truthfully.
yeah.
All right, we got 2 last things. Words of advice in closing. So I'm gonna hand it back to Craig. Craig, advice. You started ACS. You guys did from scratch. You ran it out of your house. I remember you telling me that.
Yeah.
All right.
Yeah.
Words of advice. You give one piece of advice to the younger you, to young Craig.
A younger me.
Yeah. And you can't say less whiskey, because that's not allowed on this podcast.
Now, I learned that before that. You know, the advice, it is tough because of just learning over the years. There's so many different things I would tell myself. The best advice I can get is listen to the older people out there. Listen to the people you work for. The 2 gentlemen I worked for before, and I'm going to mention their names here.
Yeah, go ahead, man.
It's Mike Wiggins from Quality Seal. He fired me. And then I went and worked for Jim Bebo at ACI Asphalt.
Yep.
He fired me. I learned a great deal from both of those guys. I give, and they both have been very, very successful. And I just want to say, I thank them, but I learned a ton from each one of them.
Yep.
But the biggest thing that I'd give advice to anybody getting in this business, know your cost, and cost every project you do. Every project you do.
Yep.
I don't care if it's a simple sub out job, you cost it. Because if you don't know your costs, that's the biggest way that you're not going to be in the business
very long
next year.
Yeah. Yeah. Chris Tammany said, I'm going to charge down to the last paper clip. Said somebody's going to have to pay for it, and it ain't going to be me. I was like, all right, man. He's like, I can't stress out enough. All right, Steve, your turn. If you could give yourself advice, you're closing in on 20 years in the business. You're there.
So what I would tell as the new guys is, I think one of the most important things about this business is forming alliances with your competitors, friendly competitors, guys that are in the same business as you are. Contracting business, they're the same. I mean, you could say a roofing guys, but in the end, what happens is if you have an alliance with somebody that's equally minded as you,
yep.
When stuff goes wrong throughout the day, I mean, I've got alliances with probably about 5 of my close competitors here, and
yep.
then guys throughout the country. And people call me all the time with problems. It's great to have an alliance with somebody when you have an issue, because I tell people all the time, joking around, like, dude, there is nothing, I don't care what you did, there is nothing you're dealing with right now that I have not dealt with. I've made hundreds of thousands of dollars of mistakes in 20 years. So if I can save you any money by helping you do something, but it's obviously very important to align yourself with somebody that shares the same values you have, has integrity. I was aligned with a guy when I first got started. Both of us were the same age. His business, he had started a couple of years before me. I kind of really helped him once I started helping him do some stuff. He started going up, but I was climbing 2-3 times faster than he was. We were best friends. And then, you get to a certain point where you're making a lot more money and the resentment comes in.
Yep.
And I finally just had to kind of like cut ties, because it just became almost like a tie. You couldn't even tell him anything, because, I used to be excited to tell him something like, oh, I just did this, or I bought this or this. You couldn't say it, because instead of me, like when Craig calls me up and says, I just bought a $400,000 miller, and I'm like, I'm proud of you, he would say, oh, it must be nice to have $400,000. Like it.
Yeah. Spite.
So you got to be careful, like who you're aligning with. But having friends in this industry, there's nothing that can understate the importance of it, because it's just nice to be able to talk to other people that have the same thing, that are in there, and the companies grow together and everybody's growing at the same time. And then when you get to a certain level, like Craig and I are, I think you're obligated at that point to help other people, because in all honesty, I know in my instance, I didn't get to where I was without help from other people.
Right.
And I feel that, it's now my obligation to like pay that forward to help other people.
Beautiful. Yeah. This is our trade. This is our trade. So it's like, well, we want to give back to our trade. You don't want it to die, and you don't want to see it when you're done. You don't want to see it being done incorrectly or see it go down the rails, because it's provided great for us. Very good. Well, guys, thanks so much for joining me on the podcast. We're gonna have to do it again sometime, together or separately. We'll throw somebody else in here. I'll bring somebody. That way it's even scaled next time. I'll bring somebody next time.
Find the guy that gave us the bad review. We want to talk. We want him on the show. So.
All right, I'll start weeding it out. I've been pretty good at weeding out trolls, man. So
that would be great. Find all our haters.
I will.
Invite all our haters.
Dude, do you see this monitor behind me? This is like a 36-inch monitor. If it was people I got a beef with, you would need 4 of these, like when you go into like layers and the windows are on the side. So
fair enough. We'll just work on Craig's. We'll just do Craig. All right, guys. All right. That was it. Great. Thanks for coming. Really appreciate it. Glad you guys were on here. Really, thanks for coming. I really
thank you.
Dude, no worries. No worries. Glad to have you both. All right. That's it for Blacktop Banter. I'm going to add patch it this time. So we want you to seal it, pave it, stripe it, patch it, and kill it. Peace.
Yeah,